Let me pull up this next story now that we're kind of getting into the thick of things here. We got this story from Newsweek. Targeted assassinations coming if civil war breaks out. Adam Kinzinger has spoken on this issue. He spoke with, I think, CNN and The View. And he said that there's a real possibility of civil war in this country. And it's coming from a guy who is, I wouldn't even call him a Republican at this point, but it's kind of weird because what left and right don't mean anything anymore. Right. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican is also mostly meaningless because you could be an establishment uniparty Republican, you could be a progressive Democrat or a corporate Democrat. This is just a guy who hates Trump. He made a very, very good point, though. He said people are separating into tribes. People don't live in the same realities anymore. And he believes that if there is a civil war, it's going to be targeted assassinations. That's going to be the level of conflict we see. I certainly hope not. But for all the people who, even to this day still, these establishment leftists want to mock me, saying that I'm crazy for bringing up this idea of civil war. It's really funny now when I'm, trolling on Twitter and I see them posting like, I used to make fun of him because he wouldn't stop talking about civil war, but now The Guardian and Newsweek and even the New York Times are talking about it. So like, I don't know, man, maybe something's happening. It's like, yeah, maybe I wasn't wrong to say I feel like we're heading in this direction. When you've got people that are choosing their politics based on whether they hate you or not, like the Alec Baldwin thing or the Freedom Convoy. The workers of the world are uniting and the left opposes it? This makes literally no sense.
The people who literally say that they are for the blue collar is exactly the ones who are trying to constantly attack the blue collar.
It's backwards.
And look, under President Trump, the one thing I've talked about, and I talked about this with Congressman Jim Jordan, the Republicans were looked at as kind of the wine and cheese party for the longest time, right? What President Trump did was he brought it back to where the Republican Party is about the beer and blue jeans party.
Yeah.
We are the party of the American worker. We are the party of the blue collar worker. And that's what I love to be a part of.
That changed so fast in my lifetime that the Republicans became the blue collar party.
Well, you know why?
The Democrats are white collar. What the heck?
The Republicans and the Democrats were both corporate shills. The Democrats feigned supporting the working class. When Donald Trump stormed the gates, the establishment Republicans fled. The Lincoln Project, they're Democrats now. I mean, they claim they're principled Republicans, but once they've accomplished their mission, we're going to make sure Trump doesn't get reelected. They come out and go, donate to us anyway because Republicans are bad. It's like,
or
okay.
to our sex scandals that went on in Lincoln Project.
Yeah,
let's ignore those. Let's ignore those, right?
But I'm with what Kinzinger is saying, we also have another article from The Guardian where they said we're in the Civil War. It's here. We've had the New York Times saying it. Ray Dalio, a billionaire, has come out and said it again yesterday, that if you look at legislation in this country, Republicans are being accused of voter suppression. Democrats are being accused of stripping voter security. Neither side agrees the other side is working, honestly and legitimately. I don't think it matters if who's right. You sitting at home, you think, well, I know which side is right. We're right. I'm right. That's not relevant to the point. The point is, if neither side agrees, they both think they are right. It doesn't matter who's right. It's kind of like fighting is going to start.
The Democrats are looking at the ship and the captain as in the ship's a ship and it's sailing, but the captain was psychopathic. It was Donald Trump. And we can't have a psychopath piloting the ship. The Republicans are looking at the Democrats as the ship is shooting explosives in every direction and killing everything around it. But so it doesn't, they're not less, it's less about the captain to them. It's
I think that we're at the political civil war. I don't think, and it's spiraling out towards the American people. So what's happening is that, President Trump came in and he kind of unveiled that there is corruption and all this on both sides. And he wouldn't be part of the swamp. He wouldn't be part of the establishment because, one, he can't be bought and he didn't need it. But the thing that we're seeing right now is where people have woken up. And it's now where we have identified even more strongly the two-party system, and we're on opposing pendulums. It's now swing extreme left, swing extreme right, and the people are reacting to that.
But, here's the issue, and to address what you said, Ian, as well, it's not going extreme right. It's going center right, far left, center right, far left. If you look at Pew's research on this, from 1994, there's a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being far left, 10 being far right. In 1994, the Democrats were a 5. They were centrists. And the Republicans were a 6, center right. In 2004, the Democrats moved over, I think, to a 4, jumping 1 point to the left. And Republicans jumped about a point to the left to a 5. Republicans are at a 6.5 right now. They're a half point more right wing, more conservative than they were in 1994. But Democrats jumped from 5 to a 2, meaning they're 3 points further left. The jump is absolutely from the left.
No argument that they're the most radical. Zero argument on that. I mean, and the problem is that we have to try and balance the scale as I tell people all the time, like, look, it's like this glass, right? So I'm a conservative. The Republican Party is nothing more than a repository for the conservative ideals that I have. The problem is that we have too many Republicans like Adam Kinzinger, who claims to be a Republican, who are not willing to protect and not willing to actually help to conserve those values that are actually in there that makes us Republicans. That's the difference.
Or Americans.
Or Americans.
What the January...
And that's what it is. It's Americans versus anti-Americans now. That's what it comes down to.
It really is. And I think it's funny because it's the old trope of Glenn Beck or Hannity. They hate America. And I'm like, well, they really do. And they were right the whole time.
I don't know. I don't want to fall into that
No, they do,
brainwashing.
bro.
I don't think there's a they, man. I think we all want different things. We all love America and want it to be different.
Technically, you're right. There's no they in that when we refer to the left, it's a very, very large group of different political factions with shared common interests, but it's not completely unified. Corporate Democrats obviously don't want communism, and the communists don't like the corporate Democrats, but they unify around certain issues. The same is true for Republicans, center-right, traditional conservatives, religious folk. You've got the post-liberals who are now finding themselves with Republicans, and that's a pro-choice, pro-life disagreement. But the issue I really do think comes down to a few fundamental issues. Do you like this country or not? Do you think this country is inherently evil or not? Do you believe in the Constitution? Are you authoritarian or libertarian? There is a they. When we say that, I'm referring to people who outright don't like the Constitution.
So constitutionalists, and I don't like to say
not necessarily
anti
that.
because of the codependency,
Left and right.
counterdependency
It's
that it
just
evokes.
left and right are two words that mean basically tribe 1, tribe 2.
Yeah.
Call it tribe A and B. How about this?
It's true.
We don't want anyone to be lesser, so we'll say tribe 1 and tribe A.
Nice.
And now everybody can be, whatever. But when I look at Adam Kinzinger, and he comes out and he says there's going to be targeted assassinations, the right has lost their mind or whatever. I'm like, bro, you're the one on the January 6th committee issuing these subpoenas and trying to put the former administration in prison.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the investigation. I'm talking about filing subpoenas against former staff members and threatening them with prison because they refuse to comply with what the other side views as unconstitutional.
Well, let me just ask this question though. He's acting like this is something new. Are we not calling the incident that involved Representative Steve Scalise a targeted assassination?
Yeah.
I mean, we had a left winger who came out,
Bernie Sanders guy,
and literally shot and nearly killed Steve Scalise.
Mm-hmm. Almost killed a bunch of people.
That's right. I mean, so my point is that he can't say that it's just now. What it is for me.
No.
For me, this is Adam Kinzinger just trying to stay relevant. For me, this is Adam Kinzinger trying to position his next job next to Whoopi Goldberg or on the CNN.
He may be late to the party, but he's not wrong.
I'm not saying he's wrong.
When Rand Paul got attacked and he lost a piece of his lung, they celebrate it to this day.
If they thought it was hilarious.
That's true.
Not
They
every
did.
single Democrat.
No.
But a lot of them. When Donald Trump was attacked at the White House and they tore the barricades down, set fire to a guard post and torched the church, and Trump was ushered into the emergency bunker, they laughed at him in the corporate press.
The problem with
they
You want
laughed
to talk
about
about
Right.
insurrection,
No, you're absolutely
attacking
right.
the White House and breaking down the barriers and assaulting federal agents. I think that
What was it, like
qualifies.
70?
Threatening the
This is
safety
like
of
around
the president of the
50,
United
yes.
States.
Yeah,
And they
exactly.
laugh. To this day, they laugh that they
You're
did
absolutely
it.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come out and they cry, oh, it's an insurrection, I'm like, yo, I literally don't care what you think. Y'all are celebrating. I'll say this. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. Never a more apt statement. I know it's a joke from Rick and Morty, but it's completely applicable. These people cheer when they try to burn down a church in front of the White House and try to breach the barricades and injure federal officers, set fire to a guard post, and then they boo when right-wingers riot at the Capitol. Yo, I don't care about who's right or who's wrong. The fact is both sides are engaged in an escalation of hyperpolarization.
Yep.
And I think I don't see any way this comes back together.
It's sort of, I think that we need to
great
teach the
divorce.
children. We need to start teaching the kids now, because what's going to happen is they're going to laugh at other people's trauma, violence, and like see someone else get hurt, a political rival, and they'll laugh. And then kids will see that. And as they grow up, these people don't realize they're laughing at their political rivals getting hurt. But if kids see that and then decide they don't like you, and you were the one that was hurting that, laughing at that other person, they're going to start doing that to you and laughing at you. It's going to become a cycle.
It's already happened. There have been kids who have been brutally beaten for not wearing masks.
We need to help the kids. We really need to seize control of the narrative and communicate to these children.
Well, this is the thing. It's not just about the radical left. That's a huge part of it, and there's absolutely no doubt that the left is far more radical than the right is currently. But it's also a question of how insane the center has gotten in what is just considered normal, moderate politics.
Yeah.
The fact that for the past 2 years, children have been forced to wear masks in school, and anyone who's spoken out against that or said, I'm not going to cover my face, has been perceived as if there's some kind of maniac who wants to go around spreading viruses and killing people. Even though, and I know we can't get into some of the details on the CDC here, but the problem is the center has gotten so crazy, and when you look at where they're at now, you start to peer into the past and realize things have been far outside of anything even remotely reasonable for a very long time.
Partisan.
For example, it's partisan, but when you look at the things the Democrats and Republicans are willing to come together and agree on, they're all really terrifying too. It's the reasonable center that tells us that we have to go to these wars in the Middle East that cost trillions of dollars. It's the reasonable center that told us that we needed to spend all of the money and raise the debt ceiling, and now we're $30 trillion in debt.
I don't think so.
You don't think it's the
See,
reasonable
I
center?
don't
You don't think
know.
it's the
No,
right?
I-
These are the
see, I don't
bipartisan
think it's
things that the left and
reasonable
right
center.
agrees
I agree with
with.
Tim on this. I don't think it's a reasonable center at all.
Well, I'm using reasonable here.
It's not. No. Nancy Pelosi and Rachel Maddow. The people advocating for war are not reasonable centrists. They're corporatist, Democratic, uniparty, whatever. Garbage.
Exactly.
I mean,
but
look
my
at what-
point
look
is
at-
like
but
that
look at-
represents the position of the status quo. That's not some radical position that's
But here's-
outside of
right.
the system. That's what I'm saying when I'm referring to the radical
Yes.
center. I'm saying these are the things that the left and right agree upon, and the things that they have in common are actually in many cases way more insane than the things that separate them.
I'll tell you what's very interesting to me, though, and I posted an article recently about this. When President Trump came into office, everyone argued that he was going to launch the next World War III.
Yep.
And this is a guy who literally could not have gotten us to a safer position. I mean, created the Abrams Accord, started creating an Arab coalition to be able to fight their own wars so we don't have to be interventionists, started looking at drawdown so that we could get out of, Afghanistan and Iraq and all these other areas and start focusing on the America First agenda. Meanwhile, think about it, it was the Democrats who are actually saying this. Now, where are we right now? We're literally deploying troops to be able to go into Ukraine and other areas to fight against Russia, creating the Cold War or the 1920s all over again. And these are the exact people who are pointing fingers at the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It's insane.
When they were complaining about him potentially starting a civil war, they were just upset that they weren't going to get to do it first if he ever did.
Well, good thing for them. They actually were responsible for a lot of it.
Yeah.
I feel like
Exactly.
the night is always darkest before the dawn, man.
I'm hoping so.
I've been listening to Dave Smith. He went on Rogan a couple days ago and was talking about the war in Yemen and about the United States' relationship with Saudi Arabia. And Saud is like one of the most gruesome regimes in the world. It's a dictatorship kingdom, and they treat their women horribly, and God, yada yada yada, goes on and on and on. But they're just bombing farms in Yemen
And fishing boats.
and murdering people, murdering generations of humans. And the U.S. is selling them weapons to do it.
Maybe
not to do it. They're selling the weapons,
correct
and they're
that
doing
for a second,
it.
though. You're failing to understand, though, also what the proxy militias from Iran, the Houthis, are doing. I mean, they literally shut down and attacked Saudi Aramco. They actually went in there. They're launching missiles. Last week, they just launched another missile. It landed in the UAE that killed some of the people there. The bottom line is that the people that Saudi are actually fighting against are the Iranian proxy militias that were down in the Gulf of Aden and all those other areas. While I agree with you, we necessarily shouldn't be involved in that war, and that's a war between the Middle East and that region and for their own stability and things like this. And I'm anti-interventionist. The idea of being able to support allies or supporting the others. I mean, this is one of those areas where it starts to become a quagmire. How deep do you get in? But I'll tell you right now, though, it's not like Saudi was just going out there and saying, oh, well, here's some random farmers, we're going to kill them. No. These were actually Houthi rebels who had actually launched attacks and who were actually killing Saudis and killing UAE soldiers and things like this over in the area and are still launching missiles and rockets into Abu Dhabi still today.
So you're saying they're firing the missiles from Iran, and then they're targeting Yemen?
They're actually firing them from Yemen and launching them into other areas.
Are we sure they're not false flags?
Oh, we're 100%
Also,
sure.
so here's the thing. So the problem, and I just want to mention this, you're absolutely correct that the Houthi rebels do a lot of horrible things. They have child soldiers, but the problem is whenever you look at any conflict in the Middle East, you're going to see a lot of evil on both sides. And there's truth in that with respect to any conflict you see, even if you're rooting for a particular side. War crimes are common, unfortunately. But I will say this, there is a blockade preventing food from entering Yemen, and tens of thousands of people are starving to death. Civilians have been made the target of the warfare here.
Agreed. But that's always the case. You always have this collateral damage. Going back to your point, do you have proof? Well, of course you do. Look at the UN Security Council. Look back when you either had Ban Ki-moon, who was the actual general secretary, or even Gutierrez, where they actually caught the Iranian ships who are actually shipping in mid-range ballistic missiles into the Houthis, which is a violation of Resolution 2231 or the JCPOA. So there is factual, proof where the Iranians were actually supporting the Houthis to be able to launch attacks against Saudi Arabia. So that's not anything that's even up for debate when it's actually been caught by international.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.